It's not about the fix or the clinical line. It's the lived experience, yours and mine. But even the helpers need a hand to hold to keep the fire from turning cold.
Hello and welcome to the Mindful Peer. In this video, I'll explain how the peer model Fidelity check provides a supervisor self-assessment. Here's how the app works. Most of us who end up supervising peer specialists came out of clinical or compliance-driven environments, and those environments shape the way we think about supervision without us realizing it. We start correcting instead of exploring. We give directives instead of asking questions. We protect people from their own judgment instead of trusting it. And over time, the thing that makes peer support different from everything else on the treatment team gets buried under how the rest of the system operates. This tool helps you see that drift before it becomes the way things work. There are 3 tabs: self-check, results, and history. You start in the self-check tab. 6 dimensions, 4 statements each, 24 ratings total. You rate each statement on a scale from never to always. Each dimension also has real-world scenarios you can open up to help you think through what that dimension actually looks like in practice. Let me walk through the 6. Recovery orientation asks whether you center supervision around recovery principles rather than just compliance, whether you treat your peers' lived experience as actual expertise, whether you help them connect who they are personally to who they are professionally, and whether your feedback leans toward what they're building rather than what they're missing. Peer role protection asks whether you advocate for the peer role when other staff misread it, whether you step in when someone pushes a peer outside their lane, whether you're keeping clinical tasks where they belong, and whether you back your peer up when they need to say no. Autonomy support asks whether you let the peer build their own way of working, whether you ask questions instead of handing down answers, whether you trust their read on a situation, and whether you let them show up as themselves instead of a version of themselves you're more comfortable supervising. Power awareness asks whether you name the fact that you hold power in this relationship, whether you make real room for your peer to push back on you, whether you use language they can actually work with, and whether you check in on whether supervision feels like support or like scrutiny. Wellness focus asks whether you check in on your peers' own recovery, not just their caseload, whether you're watching for burnout, whether you model healthy limits in your own work, and whether you make it normal to say, "I need a break." System advocacy asks whether you push the organization to build policies that actually support peer work, whether your peers have access to training and professional development, whether you name the barriers that make this work harder than it needs to be, and whether you help clinical staff understand what peer support is and why it's different. Once all 24 are rated, you hit see results. You get a radar chart across all 6 dimensions, bar scores in green, amber, or red depending on where you landed, a list of your strongest areas, a list of where you need to grow with a concrete suggestion for each one, and a reflection field where you write what you want to focus on before the next time you do this. Each dimension is scored out of 20. Overall is out of 120. Nobody scores perfect across all 6. And that's not what this is for. You can save your results and come back. The History tab keeps a running record and shows you a trend line over time, so you can see whether specific dimensions are getting stronger or staying flat. There's no audit for this. Nobody at the state level is checking whether you're supervising to the peer model. Using this tool is a choice you make because you decided the peer role is worth protecting, not in a policy document, but in the actual room where supervision happens. Do it once a month. Be straight with yourself. If you find you've drifted, that's not a problem. It's just information, and knowing it is how you do something about it. Free at mindfulpeertools.netlify.app.
Welcome to the level ground, where the tools for the journey are finally found. Not a doctor, not a boss, just a steady ear, finding the balance at the mindful peer. Keep the motto true, keep the vision clear, walk in the path